Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday Creative Living series. And whether you are joining us here in person or online, we are so glad that you are here with us today. We are blessed to have you. As always, know that you are welcome here exactly as you are. And this is a place where we come together to remember something we often forget during the busy pace of life. To remember who we are, the power that we are one with, that there is a presence within us that it's always steady, it's wise, and always ready to guide us. That presence, that internal guidance system. Today, I'd like to talk about something almost every one of us has said at some point: I'm not just ready. Perhaps you've said it about changing careers, about going back to school, or starting something new, having an important conversation, or simply believing in yourself again. You just say, I'm not ready for all of that. Usually, when we say, I'm not ready, what we really want is more certainty. We want to know how it is all going to work out. And because we don't know that, we don't say that, we'll just say we are not ready. We want to see the road before we start the journey. You want to see how your career will progress before you start that career. But what if that's not how life works? To see the whole picture. What if we are not supposed to see the whole road? What if divine intelligence rarely gives us the entire map, but faithfully gives us enough light, enough light for the step that is ours to take? Just enough light for that one step that you need. And that is what I want us to explore today. Enough light for the next step. I'm not suggesting we rush into decisions or ignore wisdom, preparation, or good judgment, or even good counsel. Those things matter. But there comes a moment when preparation, while it turns into procrastination, we just keep deferring what we are supposed to do. When thinking becomes overthinking, and caution becomes fear wearing a respectable disguise. Perhaps the invitation of spiritual living is not to know everything before we begin. Perhaps it's to become still enough to believe the light, trust it, and take the steps it reveals. In everything we do, trust is very vital, important. Let's explore something different, a different possibility. What if we don't have to wait until we feel completely ready? Listen to it again. What if me, don't have to wait until we are completely ready? What if life has been inviting us to take one small step, trusting that the next step will become visible after the first one? I'll say this again. What if life has been inviting us to take one small step, trusting that the next step will become visible after the first one? This line is probably for someone here. What if life has been inviting you to take one small step, trusting that the next step will become visible after the first one? Listen to this story. A few years ago, I read about a community center that offered kayaking lessons every summer. On the first morning, the instructor gathered everyone together before they got into the water. Some people immediately climbed into their kayaks. Others stood on the dock asking questions. What if I tip over? What if I can't steer? What if I get stuck? What if everyone else is better than me? The instructor answered every question patiently. He explained how to hold the paddle. He demonstrated how to turn. He talked about balance. He even showed everyone what to do if your kayak flipped over. Then he smiled and said something the class never forgot. You can stand on this dock all day learning about kayaking, but balance is learned on the water. That simple sentence stayed with me. Balance isn't learned by standing safely on the dock. It's learned by getting into your kayak in action. You don't discover that you can steer until you begin paddling. You won't know. You gather all the information, all the knowledge, but until you get into action. You don't discover that you can recover until you wobble a little. You don't discover your confidence while imagining the journey. You discover it while taking it. Isn't life like that? Many of us are standing on the dock. We are being too careful. We are reading another book, which is good, watching another video, waiting for another sign, thinking one more thought. We are hoping that one morning we'll wake up feeling completely certain, confident, and fearless. But life has a unique way of teaching us. It rarely gives us confidence before the journey. It gives us confidence during the journey. Faith with works. Perhaps that's why so many opportunities quietly pass us by. Not because we lacked ability, potential, or intelligence, but because we believed we needed to feel ready before we began. The truth is that there are moments when waiting feels productive because we are still making progress. We tell ourselves we are researching, preparing, thinking, organizing, and sometimes we truly are. But sometimes we are simply postponing the very experience that will give us the confidence we've been waiting for. Have you ever noticed that fear is excellent at sounding practical? Fear rarely says, don't do it. Fear usually says, not yet. Wait until you become more qualified. Wait until you have more money. Wait until you are more mature. Wait until life settles. Again, wait until you know everything. The trouble is that life rarely settles down exactly the way we imagine. There's always something to do. There's always another level to get to. There's always another reason to wait. Another reason to postpone. And there will be good reasons. There will be another reason to believe that tomorrow will somehow feel different, or I'll be more comfortable tomorrow. But tomorrow often sounds exactly like today. And before long, the months become years. Years become decades. And one day we wonder what happened to the dream that once made our heart come alive. I don't believe most people fail because they lack talent. I think many people simply spend too much time of their lives standing safely on the dock. waiting for the water to be still, waiting for everything to be stable. Spirit has never asked us to know everything before taking that first step. Life simply asks us to trust enough to step into the water. Just trust. That's all you need. The Bible will often talk about faith as small as a mustard seed. You don't need so much, just the smallest of faith. There's a beautiful story in the Bible about Peter seeing Jesus walking on the water. Peter says, in essence, if it's you, tell me to come. And Jesus simply says, come. Peter had no guarantee that the wind would stop. The waves did not disappear first. He simply responded to the invitation and stepped out of the boat. The conditions weren't perfect. The storms were still raging. And for a moment, he walked. But then the story says that Peter noticed the wind. Then his attention shifted from the call that invited him forward to the conditions surrounding him, and fear took over. And what happened? He began to sink. I think there's something powerful in that. Sometimes the question is not whether there is a storm around us. There may be uncertainty. There may be difficulties. There may be many reasons to be afraid. The deeper question is, what has our attention? Where is our focus? On the power within or on the distractions around? On the uncertainties? Where is our trust? Peter did not step out because the conditions were perfect. He stepped out because he trusted the voice that said, come. Do you trust that inner guidance system, that power that you are one with? And perhaps that is what faith sometimes looks like for us. Not pretending that the wind isn't blowing, but refusing to let the wind have the final say. Refusing to let all those challenges, all those difficulties, all those problems to have the final say. To be still and listen to that voice within, that power that you are one with, that's always cheering you. Not waiting for every condition to become perfect, but listening to the deeper guidance within and trusting it enough to respond. Be still and know. Be still and know. Sometimes we already have enough light for the next step. What we need is enough faith to take it. And something remarkable begins to happen. As we move, as we take that step, we discover abilities we never knew we had. We meet people we never would have met. We gain experience that no classroom could ever provide. Our confidence quietly catches up with our courage. As you move, mark that word, as I take that step. Perhaps readiness was never meant to be the starting point. Perhaps readiness is something we grow into. The very thing we've been waiting to feel ready, certain, is waiting for us on the other side of the first step. The courage, the certainty. But there's something deeper here than simply becoming more confident. The spiritual living reminds us that we are not separate from the intelligence of life. You are one with it. You are not separate from it. There's this presence within us, within you, an inner wisdom that guides, that directs, that reveals. We often talk about that internal guidance system, taking on that journey within, that journey without a distance. So when we take a step from the deeper knowing, we are not moving through life alone or depending only on our human ability. We are cooperating with a greater intelligence. We're in partnership, already at work with us. And our responsibility is not to know everything. Our responsibility is to listen, to trust, and to respond. So listen, you trust, and respond. So why do we wait? Often it's not because we are lazy or we don't care. We simply want to get it right. We don't want to fail, make a mistake, or look foolish. So we tell ourselves, I'll do it when I'm ready. But one more class, a little more experience, a little more money, a little more confidence can quietly become a lifetime of waiting. The truth is, no amount of preparation removes all uncertainty. Every meaningful beginning asks us to trust before we can see the whole path. Again, life doesn't always remove uncertainty. It teaches us how to move through it. Now, there's a difference between acting impulsively and moving from inner guidance. Spiritual living does not ask us to ignore wisdom, preparation, or good judgment. It asks us to become quiet enough to recognize when we already know what to do, to become courageous enough to act on what we know. Sometimes hesitation is wisdom saying, wait. But sometimes, again, it's simply fear asking for another guarantee. Discernment asks what it's mine to do. And faith says, now that I know, I will move. I have a story here. I'd completed my studies and qualified to take an important professional examination. Everything was done. All I had to do was choose a date. Normally, I would have given myself several weeks to review and prepare for the exam. So one day at work, I logged onto the testing website, hoping to find an appointment sometime within the next 2-3 weeks or a month, but there was none. Everything was taken. Instead, there was one opening that caught my attention, and it was just the next day morning, tomorrow morning. My first thought was, tomorrow? Am I ready for that? Part of me wanted more time, more review, more preparation. But another part of me knew that I had already done the work. I'd gone to school. At some point, I had to stop preparing to take the exam and actually take it. I remember calling my wife and telling her there's an opening tomorrow morning. I don't want to keep carrying this around in my mind. I think I'm just going to take it tomorrow. There was a little silence on the other end of the phone. I think she wanted to say, are you sure? After all, I hadn't spent weeks reviewing like people usually do. At the same time, she didn't want to discourage me about something she sensed I'd already decided in my heart to do. Finally, she simply said, if that's what you believe is right, then go for it. The next morning, I walked into the testing center. Was I completely free of nervousness? Of course not. Did I know every answer before I sat for the exam? Of course not. But I also knew something else. If I kept waiting to feel completely ready, I would always find another reason to postpone it. Sometimes there comes a moment when you simply have to trust what has already been planted within you, that power that you are one with, that you can do all things. Remind yourself of who you are. So I took this exam. After a few days, the results arrived. I passed. But the interesting thing wasn't simply that I passed. The interesting thing was what I learned. I discovered that I had been far more prepared than I believed. Passing the exam simply confirmed what taking the step had already begun teaching me. There comes a point where more waiting doesn't necessarily make us more prepared. Sometimes it simply makes us more comfortable with postponing. Oh, I'll do it the next time. I'll do it the next time. Before you know it, a year is gone. I'm grateful I didn't wait until I felt perfectly ready, because that feeling never came. What came was a moment when I had to decide, here and now. Here and now I can do all things. Here and now I am healed. Here and now all things are possible. I made the decision, took the step, and that opened the door for the next chapter. But there's an even deeper spiritual truth here. Sometimes we look at the next step only through the eyes of the human self. Am I capable enough? Do I know enough? Am I strong enough? I've tried before and I failed. We look at the challenges, at the uncertainties. And from that level, there will always be something that makes us feel inadequate. But we are more than our fears. You are more than your fears. You are more than those challenges. You are more than the uncertainties and the limitations we sometimes place on ourselves. There is an infinite intelligence expressing through us. A wisdom greater than what we consciously know. And a presence that is never absent. It's always a presence with that intelligence. And anytime we talk about in this power, in this good, in it we live, you move, and you have your being, the totality of everything you are. It's like you're submerged in water. Everything about you is in that power. But ours is to learn how to use that power for our own good. Ernest Holmes talked about a power that we are one with and we can use. It's always available. And that is what gives faith its foundation. Faith is not saying, I know exactly what is going to happen. Faith is saying, I may not know everything that lies ahead, but I know what I am connected to. I may not have the whole picture. I may not know how this thing will turn out. But I just know one thing. It will end in praise. It will end in good. My end shall greatly increase. Because that's what that source assures us. We are not being asked to manufacture all the wisdom, strength, and courage we will ever need before we begin. We are being asked to trust the source. Just trust. Just trust. That's all you need for the journey. And become available to what it's seeking to express through you. Sometimes we pray for good, we treat for good. Are you open to it? Are you allowing the good? Or you treat and go back to worrying? Imagine if a tiny seed could think. Perhaps it would say, I don't think I'm ready. I've never grown before. What if the rain comes? What if the wind is too strong? And if the seed waited until it felt completely ready, it might remain safe underneath the soil, but it would always remain unchanged. It will always remain unchanged. The purpose of a seed is not to remain a seed. It grows by responding to the life already within it. It does not know how tall it will become, how many branches it will have, or who may one day rest beneath its shade. It simply begins. It simply begins. Open up to the good. Take that step. Trust that power that you are one with. Perhaps we are more like that seed than we realize. We spend so much time asking, what if I fail? Maybe a better question is, what is within me that can only be discovered if I begin? Do you know what is within you that you can only discover when you take that step, when you speak that word? Sometimes we get so scared. What if I say it and it doesn't happen? It's not your part to determine or to bring it to pass. Your part is to speak with faith, with conviction, with understanding, with knowing the power that you are one with, and leave the rest for spirit. There's somewhere in the scripture it says, Paul sows the seed, Apollos watered, and God, the Spirit, brings the abundance. Your part is just to speak the word. We take that step. There's a wisdom already planted within us. Spirit is the life expressing itself as us, and we can move with quiet confidence. Not because we know everything, but because we trust the presence within. That does not mean every step will be easy or every plan will unfold exactly as we imagined. But every sincere step teaches us something. Even what we call mistakes can become part of our wisdom, can become the demonstration, the testimony. Life wastes nothing. Every step can prepare us for the next one. Perhaps you've been waiting for permission, for confidence, for certainty, or the perfect moment. What if you stopped waiting and simply began? Make the phone call. Start the application. Write the first page. Take the class. Offer the apology. Forgive yourself. Take that step. Whatever your next step is, take it. Not because everything is certain, but because something within you is ready to be expressed. So as we close, imagine waking up tomorrow morning with one simple belief. I don't have to feel completely ready before I begin. What would you finally do? Maybe you make the call. You send the email. You start the application. You begin the project. You have the conversation. Or you simply say yes to something that's been stirring up within you. I promise you, and I know that you have enough wisdom, knowledge within you. You'll be amazed at what will play out, at what will come out if you take that step, when you take that step. You may not have every answer, and you may still feel a little nervous, but that it's okay. The next chapter of your life is not waiting for the perfect version of you. The next chapter of your life is not waiting for the perfect version of you. It is waiting for the willing version of you. It's waiting for the willing version of you. So trust the wisdom within you. Trust the good that has already been planted in you. Take that step. Begin where you are. Where you are. You don't need any other thing for the journey, just where you are. And trust. You begin where you are. And allow life to meet you as you move. Every great journey, every new beginning, every dream brought to life begins with a step. And there's a quote I'm trying to remember. All that the universe does is to bring all you desire to pass as you align with it. We may not see the whole road, and we don't need to. Spirit gives us enough light for where we are now. Trust the light you have. Take the step you can see and let the way unfold. There is enough light for the next step. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here, and many, many blessings to you. Know again that you can do all things through this power that's at work within you. Many blessings.